Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our channel. And for those who have been following us, and a special welcome to those watching us for the first time today. I'm Abhinav Mujju, co-founder for 101 World, and today we are going to be discussing how expressive arts can contribute to the mental health and well-being in children and young people. I'd be joined by Alden Murray, who is also co-founder for 101 World, later during the show, who would be sharing audience questions. On our panel today, we are joined by the former Mental Health Act Commissioner, Lionel Joyce, who is also a CBE and an OBE. And also joining us is the youth community practitioner, Junior Graham, who works on spreading awareness. Hi, Junior.
Hey.
Of young people that suffer from mental health issues. We also have today Carol Blackwell and Katie Blackwell, who are joining us today. Carol is, as a parent, she would be joining us, and Katie, who is our youth ambassador. And I'm sure some of you may remember Katie from the past events that she performed in one of our events, which was in the aid of St. Christopher's. So welcome to you all, and thank you for taking time to join us today and sharing your valuable experiences. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. Thank you, guys. So just to start with, I would start with this the discussion forum with a question, which is like, how can expressive arts be used as a tool to allow young people to explore and express themselves? So to start with, if I may ask Lionel, what are your thoughts about that? How do you think expressive arts can be used as a tool to allow young people to explore themselves?
I want to start by understanding the issue, and I want to divide it into two parts, which is young children, so under 15, and adolescents and young adults between 15 and 25. For young children, we have a real issue about adverse childhood experiences, where we know that if young children have more than 4 adverse childhood experiences, so that's things like divorce, a trauma, addictive parent, mentally ill parent, then they are almost certainly going to have major problems as an adult. And then if we talk about young adults, 15 to 25, this is the primary age of onset for schizophrenia. It's the primary age of onset for bipolar. It's the primary age for depression hitting and for addiction occurring. We're going to have drugs, we're going to have alcohol, gambling, sex. And that's why we need to help these groups so badly.
Okay, that's really nice. And if I may ask Junior, so you work with the community with young people and see this firsthand. So how have you seen expressive arts being as a tool to allow young people to express themselves?
So in my experience, I've worked firsthand with young people that have or are suffering from mental health, and I think expressive art can be used as a communicative tool. It can be used as a way for a young person to express and communicate to us as practitioners what they're going through and how they're feeling at that particular moment in time. And the positive thing about expressive arts is that it is very therapeutic. So for example, my background is in songwriting, and through the art of songwriting, you can use words to construct your mental well-being. You can talk about your background, what you're going through, and still make it in a creative way to not only express yourself, but also to entertain others.
Okay, that's really nice. This is an experience, really good. And coming to you, Carol, as a parent, how have you observed or used expressive arts as a tool to...
Right. Well, first of all, I am also UNICEF Children's Champion. So
sorry to interrupt you, Carol. If we can just move the camera a bit on a landscape rather than
good.
Oh yes, that's perfect. That's absolutely fine. Yes.
Right. As well as being a mother to 4 children, I'm also UNICEF Children's Champion, which is a new title I've taken on this year. I have 4 children. One of them has severe learning difficulties and a range of mental health problems. I've also had 2 older children who've suffered with mental health problems. And Katie's had anxiety since the age of 9. So that was brought on by speech problems that she had when she was younger. One of the things I do as a parent is to try and listen to my children, make sure they are able to talk and converse with me. And therefore, when Katie was younger, I'd read about how important music and performance arts was in developing young people. So consequently, she had speech problems when she was 9. I put her in for vocal coaching, and she was still seeing the speech therapist for her sound. And within 6 months of her starting her vocal coaching and her speech lessons, she was discharged from the speech therapist. So you can see how important that is in regards to
definitely.
plus she also had severe anxiety when she was physically sick, so I had to take her everywhere. But she's just grown and she's so amazing. In fact, I'll hand you over to her now.
Of course, yeah. Must say she's quite a strong lady, actually. So, Katie, if I may turn to you next, as a singer, as a songwriter, and a young person yourself, how do you see expressive arts being used as a tool?
I mean, I think expressive arts is actually one of the most amazing things that have ever existed. It really helps express what a person's feeling inside, and it really helps people feel that they can convey a message out there, that they can be like inspirational, like for example through songwriting, like you can talk about your mental health struggles. And I've written a song about mental health struggles with my anxiety and all that, called Undefeated, and it's actually helped a lot of people come out and say, I've suffered with this, like you really helped me and all that. And like it's helped people like talk to their parents and say, I'm feeling this way. And like songwriting and music is probably like one of the most powerful tools that we have in like our world.
Exactly. True. Definitely people do express in different ways. Songwriting, I'm sure by writing songs, actually you are expressing those feelings, you are opening up, and a lot of people can connect to that. Similarly, some people do
like
things.
poetry, but like it's in obviously like a song form, obviously. But like it's the same with poetry. Like you, like the people who write poems and all that, they express what they're feeling in like the current moment, and you can turn it into a song and you can inspire other people.
Definitely.
Or drama.
Definitely. Thanks, Katie. Thanks. Really amazing. So coming to the another question that I would like to ask to the panel members is, like, are there any specific art psychotherapy techniques that can be used effectively for mental well-being? And for this, I would like to ask Junior, actually, to start with Junior, if I turn to you first. So what specific techniques have you seen effectively being used?
So in my experience, I'm just like Katie, I'm passionate about songwriting. So when I've worked specifically in the field, I've used songwriting workshops, and I've gone into sort of help hospitals and worked with patients around songwriting. And it's been used to construct emotions and feelings into words and harmonies. So specifically, if young people want to express their well-being, as Katie said, you can do that within the songwriting form. there's a way of writing, there's a way of constructing a song and being able to energize that, to put that energy out to others. So yeah.
So that's good. I'm sure you would have come across a lot of situations like this, and
absolutely,
you know, definitely. Yeah. So coming to you, Carol, now, do you recall any, do you recall or have observed any psychotherapy techniques being used, or have you used?
Well, there are so many sort of different things. We've tried lots and lots of different avenues, haven't we? Things like affirmations, things like artwork, using artwork, using all sorts of different. What else did we have on here that we've used? So many things happen. Visual techniques, you know, sort of things to help her.
I'm sure Katie would have also either used or some techniques like on your own mental doing. What do you say about that, Katie? Any
I've used
like
quite a bit, because like I've seen like a counselor and all that. So I've got quite a few techniques. So one of them that I learned is obviously affirmations, like my mum said, like writing down all the positive stuff and reciting it loud, or like if you don't feel comfortable like doing it out loud, you can do it in your head, but in a way I think it's better to do it out loud, because like you're just like telling like your mind like you're feeling this way, putting your negative thoughts into like a little box that you write down on like a piece of paper, and you put them all in the box, and then it kind of like makes you like think you're actually like taking those memories away from you, and you're taking all those negative thoughts, and like it's kind of like having a weight lifted off your shoulder in a way, in that type of sense. And songwriting is very therapeutic, because obviously you're writing down what you're feeling and all that, and there's quite a few. Or like somebody's like very like artsy, like loves to draw or paint or even do makeup, like using your art as a metaphor of what you're feeling. You can just like use your emotions and use your creative mind and just draw whatever comes to mind of what associates with the negative thoughts you have inside.
There's also Katie won't mind me telling you this little story. Katie used to be very worried about performing in public, and she used to be very, very shy. In fact, when she first started singing, she used to turn her back even to her music teacher. I
must say, from past the last show that we had, and now Katie is today, I must say, wow, that's really amazing. Actually, the way she's expressing and the thoughts and ideas, and singing as well.
So what we used to do, we had a word association game. So you used to come up with anything green, and she had to sing the song that went with the word, for example. And I would pick some really obscure places. We could be walking down the road, and she came up with this song. It's like a challenge for her. And it encouraged her to be more confident, to be more vibrant.
Like it changes your train of thought, because I feel like when you're walking, that's when your thoughts are kind of more like in your brain, you're like feeling all this stuff. But if you do something that you love, like a song association game, and like getting your mind to think about like other stuff really helps.
And also things like we did little games like dancing, didn't we?
Yes, definitely.
Just
I can see Lionel is just you're quite into this what Katie has been speaking, and so what do you think about that? What do you think about these techniques? How effectively they can be used?
Well, I was struck because as Katie was talking, I was reminded that, of course, that's what I do every day. I practice affirmations. I go through that. How am I going to deal with my low self-esteem and all that? But I also want to bring, as you know, I used to run a large National Health Service mental health service. So I in fact ran 2 of them, and I did so for a large number of years. And what people may not know is that there are degrees in music therapy. There are degrees in art therapy. There are art therapy specialists. There is a qualification of a play therapist, somebody who actually studies how to play with little children and help them to get well. Now, alongside that, there are the people like Junior, who I've always found actually to be slightly, whisper this, slightly more useful than the professionals, because there's a genuine engagement between a musician and people who need their help. And I think of people like Kanye.
It's a compliment for Junior, actually.
Well, you think of somebody like Kanye West, right? He's absolutely out about his bipolar. Every now and then he has really serious episodes and becomes incredibly unwell. And yet other times, this is the excitement that gives him the creativity. So the balance we have to find is between trying to therapy people and therapy them out of their creativity, or encourage and support that creativity, because often that is the way to be the most well you can be. It's to realize that what's going on in your mind and your heart becomes a window to the soul, and that gives the world a new view on itself. True.
Agreed. So thanks everyone for this. It was a really eye-opener, actually, and plus an experience there. Now, coming to the next point that we'll be talking about is, now, how can we actually identify risk factors and signs of distress through expressive arts? Because this is a very important thing, to identify these things, and then we will have some answers for that. But how can we actually identify through expressive arts signs of distress? So if I may ask, starting with actually Carol, because as a first-hand experience, let me ask her as a parent. So
quite often you'll find especially with drama and music, I've noticed it in both situations. I've also got a child who's got severe learning difficulties, so I've seen it in all situations. Basically, it's things like you find when they're put into, for example, drama groups, they find it very hard to comprehend particular situations that say Katie would probably consider normal. They would find it hard to construct scenarios in that. And quite often, I also work in schools as well. So I quite often find children who are slightly more withdrawn, who also exhibit challenging behaviour, like signs of anger, signs of no real particular skills in being able to construct these ideas. These are the things that you need to watch out for. The child that's always on their own, the child that's not able to engage fully with others. It may be a problem such as Kate with anxiety, or it could be something more telling of a situation. That's what drama and music is so great for. Yes. That it brings out these situations.
Yes. So, Katie, how do you feel through expressive arts? We can identify those signs of distress or any risk factors which we can.
It's very much similar to my mum's, actually. So, like, if you was to, like, I'll give a situation, like, if like a teacher is like, oh, who wants to put their hand up for a solo? Like, even if the kid is like very, very talented, and that they want to go for it, but they're kind of like that. Like, they don't really like put their hand up with like confidence and all that. They don't really interact with other people because they just kind of want to keep to themselves. And
yes. True. So on the same note, Lionel, what is your advice? What can I say? Your advice on using expressive arts to identify these risk factors or signs of distress?
Well, Kathy gave a really good description of the sorts of situations that people should look out for. It's that sense of being alienation, the sense of being alienated from those around. And also, I think we should recognize that the individual themselves is often aware that something is wrong.
Mm.
The problem is that it's not always easy to know where to go. Now, in England, we have a ridiculous situation where if you're under 18, you have to go to this service. To get to this service, you have to go to your GP or social work or something. And then if you're over 18, it's equally complicated. In Sydney, they have an open access surgery for anyone aged between 15 and 25. You do not get a diagnosis. You simply get the opportunity to talk about your feelings and your symptoms, and you get help with those feelings and symptoms.
Mm.
Now, there's some big issues around depression and anxiety, which is very widespread during the teenage and young adult years. And people really need help to avoid that tipping over into serious depression. But there are the more serious illnesses of bipolar and schizophrenia. And again, they show up in the way that Kathy described. And if we can reach people at 15, interesting statistic, if we reach people at 15, for every £1 we spend on an early intervention in psychosis treatment, we save £20 later on in their life. And of course, we save them years of misery. So let's do more of that.
True, true. No, that's a good point, actually, really good point, Lionel. Thanks for that. So, Junior, if I coming up to you, working with young people, does some of what you have heard from our panel so far sound familiar?
Absolutely, I can relate to everything that's been said so far. For me personally, expressive arts, you can definitely identify those going through a lot of distress due to behaviors. With you know, some young people might feel withdrawn, or like, particularly going back to songwriting again, you can tell through sometimes the actual lyrics and the things that they're expressing. Where, you know, it can be a bit harmful, it can be, you know, sometimes a bit violent or just really, you know, negative. And me as a practitioner or a youth engagement worker, I would notice something like that and try my best to home in on that and take that to a comfortable creative space and say, you know, engage on actually what is going on behind what you're writing. You know, I've noticed that your writing is a bit deep. Let's discuss that. Let's talk about that. So yeah.
True. That's hands-on experience, I can say. That's what you'd have seen. So since we have now, by now we have discussed the importance of expressive arts, identified risk factors, art psychotherapy. So my next question would be, like, how do we encourage children and young people to actually participate in expressive arts? That's the, you know, at the end, we have to encourage them. So how do we encourage young people to do that? To start with, Lionel, let me just ask you, what are your thoughts on that?
Accessibility, accessibility, accessibility. Give people the opportunity. So there's a wonderful place, I'm in Newcastle upon Tyne, there's a wonderful place in Gateshead behind the Sage where you can go and do graffiti art. There's a huge space, the spray cans have provided, you can just let rip with that. That's wonderful. The Sage itself, absolutely open to people to go and explore music, however completely amateur they are. But quite often, as I think Katie and Kathy set out, you don't want to be in a public space. You need somehow to be in a fairly private space so that you can discover that you've got some ability without looking stupid. This terrible risk of looking stupid, you know, and how we are driven by fear and the possibility of shame and being shamed by other people. So we absolutely need to make these spaces safe and ideally one-to-one. That's expensive, but actually it's cheap in the long run. If you get people to manage themselves in this way, not only does Britain earn huge amounts of money from the creative arts, I mean, huge, it's one of our biggest exports. Oh, yes. But it makes the world an exciting place and it helps people to stay well.
True. Absolutely. So coming to you, Carol, on the same note, how do you think, like, we can encourage you?
The most important thing I would say, Boris Johnson, get these spaces open so these kids can get out there and entertain and do what they're doing.
All waiting for that. Fingers crossed, all waiting.
Her entertaining. There are so many, where we live in Essex, there are so many amazing opportunities for young people to get out We have open mics, which we actually absolutely benefited from 100%. We've a Phoenix FM, which is our local radio station, actually run open mic sessions where they get the children to come along. It doesn't matter how good you are, it doesn't matter how bad you are. They get the children to come along, try out the music, and then they play it on the radio on a Sunday morning. And it's just incredible. There's also other opportunities. I'll pass you to Kate because she will tell you what
Yeah,
opportunities.
definitely. I would really like to ask Katie's view. But before that, I will just have a quick question. I'll just take this to Junior, actually, because he works with young people. So how do you feel, Junior, we can encourage young people to take up and participate in this expressive art?
Yeah, participation is it's a key, because everyone has different types of episodes, everyone has different types of experiences, and not everyone will want to do it. Not everyone will. Some people might feel forced to do it, but I feel the best way to get young people to express themselves is to have, like Katie's mom said, big youth community events, media coverage, creative spaces, and let's celebrate these young people. Let's congratulate them on their confidence. Let's hear their stories. Let's, and by that, we can defeat the stigmas. We can make it more aware to the public that, there are young people going through these episodes, but here we are, we're still getting through, and we're still trudging through, and here I am to celebrate it.
I can see Lionel supporting that. Yes, he is supporting you on that.
Let's go.
Really. Coming to you, Katie. So you have heard so far from the other members. So do you agree with what they have said? And are the right things what they have said? And how do you think young people can participate in expressive arts?
I guess it's all got to do with your local community. Where I live, there's actually quite an amazing mentorship program. Where you get to work with it's like one-to-one type of thing, and it's completely free, because lots of people I know financially really struggle because the arts are very expensive, especially if you want to go to music or performing arts college. It's very expensive. And so many people love doing performing arts, but they can't necessarily access it. So it's just a way for people who can do what they love, and get all these amazing opportunities at performing at festivals, at live venues. You get to communicate with people, like a little group of people who are who pretty much all of them suffer with mental health issues, anxiety or depression, or they struggle with things that are happening at home or financially, and they get to do little radio interviews. And I think it's pretty amazing how you can have a free program working on what you want to do, and access to people, especially young.
Age relatable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good. So staying, Katie, with you, actually, I'll come to my last question. So how can we use expressive arts as a way to encourage children and young people to make them independent and they can make their own choices? So how do you think expressive arts can aid to that?
I guess in a way you've got to have a very supportive system around you. So if you go to these little mentorship programs, they really help you hone your craft, and you get to confide into somebody who can relate with you. And I guess
perfect.
yeah,
that's really good.
being around like-minded people
definitely.
True, true. So on the same note, Junior, what do you think about, encouraging children and young people? How can this expressive art help for them to become independent?
The beauty with expressive arts is it's you expressing you. So you're becoming a leader within yourself. You're expressing leadership, and through that, you can use that experience to set up your own projects, to set up your own businesses. We've seen in the community young people, in fact, that have gone through experiences, but they've used that to then to their own demise, to go into schools and youth projects and speak about what they've been through, and hopefully uplift those that are going through it themselves. We can definitely use the expressive arts to help young people become more independent, more become leaders, become youth leaders, and we can support youth-led projects through that as well. That's
Okay.
yeah.
Really, really good. Actually, I would like to come to Lionel because he has a good case study to share with us. So I was just wondering if Lionel, you could just spare a minute, just give an, talk about your experiences and how you have overcome and achieved this much. So to you, Lionel.
Oh, thanks. Just looking back now, I think I had quite bad depression and anxiety throughout the whole of my teenage years. And I resolved them when I started drinking at 18, and alcohol became a really great medication. And that sort of kept me alive for a bit. And then I had a very serious suicide attempt in my young 20s. And I ended up in the locked ward of a psychiatric hospital. They took away my clothes, I couldn't get out or anything, and on 15-minute watch. So I went through all that. I ended up being in a psychiatric hospital for 9 months, which included some great art therapy, I have to tell you, and some great experience at working at different bits of art. I came out of that. I joined the National Health Service. I subsequently joined Alcoholics Anonymous, which was a real pivotal changing point. And then I was increasingly successful, and I ended up running these large NHS mental health hospitals and services. So I am, in that sense, the lunatic who took over the asylum and was to go on to be increasingly successful. But of course, that's all based on the fact I know what this is like. This is not a pretense for me. I had a terrible depression in 1998. It might come back at any time. I have a diagnosis of bipolar. That makes me incredibly creative. And I love it, So I'm one of the very lucky people in this world.
That's really, that's from the horse's mouth. Thanks a lot. Thanks for that, sharing your experiences. My colleague will be Alden, who is also co-founder for One Art, One World, has been looking at some questions, actually, what audience has been writing in the YouTube. So, hi, Alden.
Then if you can see me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We can see you, we can hear you. Yes.
Excellent. Well, we haven't actually had any questions come up on our YouTube channel so far.
Okay,
So,
that shows the panel member explained well.
I think everybody's just very attentive and listening to everything that you guys have been saying.
That's really nice, actually. That's really nice. So yeah, just I would like to ask Junior a quick thing. He has worked with a lot of young people. So do you have any example like this, where a short example, if you could share with us?
Yes, of course. So for example, I worked in St. Charles some years ago. St. Charles is quite a well-known hospital that supports young people going through traumatic episodes. And the thing that I sort of gathered from my experience was that we all go through ups and downs with our mental health. You can't stigmatize against mental health because everybody goes through ups and downs. So for example, the young people that I met in the hospital, some were uni students, some were football players. people from everyday walks of life, and they got themselves in a muddle, and some people have ended up with really severe episodes, but the talent is there. Even when they're at their lowest point, they're still able to express through the arts. And you know, I met a young kid who was in the hospital who was a movie director. He wanted to be a movie director. He wrote 3 scripts while he was in hospital. And these are the kinds of things that society would never know. We don't see it because, you know, they're medicating themselves. They're trying to get themselves better. But sometimes through the expressive arts, it's another way, it's a therapeutic way of mending yourself. You're able to share what you've been through, and on that journey, be able to tell your story. And yeah, it's just one of the things that I've seen in my experience. So yeah.
Really, really good, really good. Thanks, Junior Graham, for sharing that case study. So yeah, we come to the end of this discussion forum, and thank you very much. Thanks a lot for all of you. And I'd like to thank all the panel members, Lionel, Katie.
Sorry, can
Karen.
I just?
Yes, please, please.
Well, as a parent and as a mother, what I would say to every parent out there is please, please listen to your child. Because if there's something they're trying to tell you, you need to open your eyes and open your ears and listen to your child, because you'll be amazed what you can find out. And I think that's really, really important. It's like I always say, you've got to step into their world before they step into yours. Otherwise, you're on the loser from day one.
True. That was an important point which I would have missed actually, and our audience would have missed. But yeah, we really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience about expressive arts and its use to children and young people in relation to mental health. Thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's been great. Lovely talking to you all. Take care.
And just before we go, if we could just say, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I forgot that. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
To connect with Katie, she's Katie Blackwell. She's got several ideas for projects going forward. She wants to go into schools, talk to other children about what.
That's why she's our arts ambassador, young arts ambassador. So yes.
Please feel free to drop us a message, and we're more than happy to help out. Isn't that right, Kate?
Yeah,
definitely.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Take
See you
care.
next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
bye.